If you could prepare a meal
Yes.
for anyone in the span of history of human civilization, who would it be and then why?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Prepare a meal, anyone in history,
Anybody.
anybody. Shoot.
What are you rebelling against?
What do you got?
We were trying to change something.
Skateboarding is a way of learning how to redefine the world around you.
The owners of this country don't care about the poor and young.
Now, baby, push me. Push me again now.
Screaming at a wall.
What's up, you miscreants, you misfits, you outcast of society? Welcome back to another episode of Screaming at a Wall. I have a very special guest, someone that I've known for quite some time, Adam Martinez.
What's up?
Who he's got that sexy voice. I've already heard him on a podcast that he used to do with his homies, and he just already has that deep voice going on. He is a half owner, operator of East Los Musubi.
Yes.
I always butcher Musubi. I don't know why. So I actually had a question for you. So I hope I got questions for you because you're on a podcast. If you could prepare a meal
Yes.
for anyone in the span of history of human civilization, who would it be and then why?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Prepare a meal, anyone in history,
Anybody.
Shoot. It's, I could go, of course, it would be Anthony Bourdain, that's off the top, just because I've respected it. I didn't really have someone that I like, okay, this person's my hero, this person's my whatever. But he was close to it. And let me see, and the dish I would prepare for him, man, that's an even harder one, bro. I think, let me see. Wow. It's like, he's been all over the world. He's tried everything. So I probably just, something that, my grandfather used to make, rest in peace. Very simple, and watching him when I was younger make it, I would trip out because it was maybe about, I don't know, like 3 ingredients. And it's just these enchiladas, these tacos that he would make with fresh tomato and garlic and queso fresco. And it was like you would see him make it and you would think, okay, it's just, it kind of looks like an enchilada, looks like a taco, looks like a whatever. But when you would taste it and you would eat it, it's just like the levels of flavors that he probably didn't even realize, what he was doing. And the reason why he did it was because, growing up, he didn't have a lot. They were dirt poor and in Mexico. So that's crazy. It's crazy. The simplicity and complexity of that dish, that's what I would cook.
I like that.
And it's, it's simple.
I don't really know too much about Anthony Bourdain other than I think he has a sort of punk rock ethos.
Yes.
Or he had one anyway. And I really appreciated that about him because he seemed to want to explore.
Yeah.
And he was open, which
Yes.
I think are two components to that type of mentality.
Yeah.
So you have obviously gotten into cooking. You have a passion for it. But you didn't necessarily grow up in an environment that maybe like a younger you wouldn't have seen you maybe take this road, right? Because you grew up in, I guess, west of where I hung out. I don't want to get into the particulars of the area that I used to hang out, but we've talked about it a few times. You lived in, I guess, like Rockwood.
I mean, man. Every other street was a neighborhood.
That's true back then, yeah.
Back then, where I grew up, I grew up in the Westlake Rampart district of Los Angeles. And in between, I guess now you would call it historic Filipino town, but we were on the other side. And, at that time, 90s, 80s, yeah, there was a neighborhood every other block. like literally, like it's not even, exaggerating. But yeah, so I lived kind of, I lived on Rampart, and it was kind of the meeting place for enemies.
Yeah.
With each people, people had enemies, and it was like one side, yeah, you had neighborhoods. Behind me, I had a different neighborhood. On the way to school, there was 2 different neighborhoods. It was nuts.
So it was like Tommy's Burgers area.
Yeah, and then of course we can't forget the notorious Rampart
Oh yeah.
station, which was down the street off of Benton Way, like a few blocks from us. So
For the people that don't know the history of Rampart Police Department, I mean, there was a lot of corruption. I mean, there was a few movies, I think, not End of Watch, but there was something with
Training Day. Training Day was
Training Day, and then I think one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Was that? I think it was End of Watch, something like that.
Something like that. But it was really, I mean, it was talking about the corruption.
Yeah.
How was it? I mean, I remember, I look back on it and I was like, well, there was definitely times that I was, I guess, like physically assaulted.
Yeah.
And then I look back and I was like, well, I kind of deserve it. I deserved it in a certain sense, but at the same time, it's like I was just a teenager, so it's like I didn't know any better. But it didn't make me not want to do what I was doing because I got physically. But there was a time when I think I lied when her name is Bar. She was crash unit.
Yeah.
And she had there was like 5 of us, and they were getting our names. It's like, what's your nickname? They took photos of us. What's your nickname? I lied, and then somebody said my name or something happened.
Burned you.
Heard me, yeah. And she's like, "Oh, was that right? You're not so and so. You're lying to me, huh? Put your hands on your head." And she interlocked my hands, like that, and then squeezed my hands, like just squeezed. And everybody was like, "Don't drop, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall." And I was like, in my mind, I was like, why is everybody so like intense about it? Because I'm sure if I fell on the ground, they would have just started beating the shit out of me. So that was like a little taste of Rampart for me.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
Bro, that's the same. I mean, it's, you think about it and, like you just said, well, maybe sometimes, not that we deserved it, but just, you could understand why you get stopped, or you could, but then on top of that, you kind of think, well, we were just kids, 14, 15, 13, getting treated like, like grown men, and, yeah, they would harass us. I remember one time I was driving with my friend from school, and right on Alvarado in 3rd, boom, crash unit pulls up to us. He looks at me and he's like, where'd you steal that car at? I already know who they were. So I was like, you kind of think about it like, damn, we know who they are. We know what they're doing. At that time, there was no, nothing came to light, but we just knew how dirty they were. And I'm like, oh shit, they got us for something. They're gonna take us for something. And then I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is my friend. I'm in the passenger seat. And he's like, yeah, right. And then he calls my friend. He's like, hey, where'd you get your license? MacArthur Park. We're like 17, 18 years old. And then we're like, me. And then he's just harassing us, going down the street, just talking shit, boom, boom, talking. And then we finally come to the stoplight, and he says, you know what? Pull in front of me. If you guys do anything wrong. He's like, I got you. We didn't. We just pulled up, hit the next stop. They lit us up, and it happened to be just about at the corner where my apartment was. And I'm not lying to you, they kept us there for about an hour and a half. They ran our names everywhere, and you could see him growing, getting more upset because there was nothing. We didn't have that
on it. Yeah.
And I even think one of our neighbors went and told my mom, like, hey, they have your son on the corner, and yeah, no, they were just harassing, and he was just like, I'm gonna just wait, and they finally, after everything, and then people start coming out, seeing what they're doing, they kind of just was like, we'll be back, we'll get you,
But you never got caught up, right? Like you never ended.
No,
really.
No, I mean, it's more of I grew up with a lot of people, we knew a lot of people, my friends that I have, all from different, places, but, we're still tight, still know people. And, I mean, in the streets, hoodlum, more of that,
Was there anything that you ever did that could have potentially put you in?
Oh, yeah.
Or did you ever, I don't even know if you've ever,
no.
to juvenile hall.
You know what? I guess I don't like to say lucky, because I feel it's in a sense disrespectful for friends and family that have been busted for a long time, but I was always one step to the left and one step to the right. I think one of the worst times is almost getting caught up in a robbery, just dumb kids, and it turned into something. And we just, just like literally like, the homies got out, did whatever. And I'm like, man, I don't feel right. And we were in the car, getaway car, I guess. And people started coming out. We didn't know that they had just robbed 7-Eleven, literally like few blocks. So the whole area where we were at, it was by the Beverly Center. The whole area we were at was just cops everywhere. And the homies got out. And, they did what they did. And the homie I was with, I was like, bro, let's double back already because it's, you don't see all these people coming out. We stick out like sore thumbs, I had lokes on, I'm bald, like we're in a bucket, like it just, it don't make sense. Like we don't make sense here, bro. Like let's get on. As soon as we hit that corner, I remember there was about 7 cop cars. They had both my homies. One of my homies, he just like looked at me. And we were just like, damn. So we just kept on just, going. And then I had seen a cop turn around and he pointed at us, but we had just already hit the corner and we were just gone in traffic and, stuff like that, just, barely let us go.
I was going to say, I think in the 90s, almost everybody, no matter what, in a certain area, you were, I don't know if anybody could hear that, but there's a dog dying over there. That is my dog. He definitely has separation anxiety. It's
he misses you.
Yeah, he does. Or he just wants to come in here, bite your. No,
he'll bite me.
He'll bite your ankles.
Nice.
I'm gonna actually just 1 second. I'm just gonna go let him know that I'm still here. 1 second. It's this one too. I just had to go choke out the dog real fast. No big deal. Put a muzzle on him. What I was going to say was that I feel like for the most part, no matter who you were, like at that age, there was like always this connection to people that were like either in gangs or like were doing stuff. For you, how were you able to get away from that, and were you ever tempted, I guess, to be a part of that lifestyle?
Oh, it's I think it's a weird. I wouldn't say weird. It's rare, I guess. I don't know, but like my friends, for whatever reasons, everybody joins a neighborhood or joins a crew or whatever. They have their reasons why, whether it's like, second family, whatever the case is, And for me, it was like, all my friends, we all grew up together. We all lived on separate sides at that time. When I started junior high and high school, I was living on Western, and then a lot of my friends were still living, in the Westlake District, Echo Park. And then by the time I got to end of junior high school, then, I moved in that area, and but we were always on there, and so everybody still had their pocket of like, people outside of us, and so for me, it was more of like, I don't know, like, I grew up with these people, like my compadre, like, so I had his back regardless, and, back then, like, I guess people that hung around or that didn't want to like bang or whatever, they weren't ready to inherit what came with all that.
You were a rebel.
And, rebels. You just weren't ready to inherit enemies. You weren't ready to inherit, just issues on the street. And I didn't care. I didn't mind,
I was going to ask you, how does identity play into that? Because I know that at that time, now you got kids, Hispanic kids that are into punk rock and into skateboarding. But I mean, there was definitely a time like in LA that was not considered like the thing to do or to be a part of something, because it was like a cultural like distinction. It's like, oh, that's only for like white boys,
kids,
right? So, I wonder like when that what that feeling was like, not to feel like you could be a part of certain things like at that time. Because like I said, I was joking around, but it was like you either were like a gangster or you were a rebel.
Yeah. Raver,
Or a raver, like subculturally, or like you did graffiti. But usually like the graffiti guys used to end up being like gangsters or whatever. So when I did time and when I got out, I saw, you know, Hispanic kids that were like into punk rock and skateboarding. Yeah. Because it was like after 2002 and then culturally it had shifted. There was like this paradigm shift, and I loved that so much. You know what I mean? Because I felt that it was, for lack of better words, like it was messed up for a lot of kids like growing up like in the 90s, because I feel like they were like self-limiting like what they could do based off of just the culture at the time.
Especially in LA. I think in our part of LA, you know, and I say our part, it's like, you know, the West Side, unless you in Venice, and then that has always had the like that's always had its mix, you know. The gangsters and the skaters and the surfers, like they've always had that cool, like, you know, like suicidal look, you know. And but with us, I think it was more like you said, it was culturally, you know, and skating and punk and stuff like that was identified with, you know, white culture. I mean, it is what it was, you know. And we had rockers and heavy metal cats, but you know, they listened to Spanish rock. You know, there wasn't, you know, too much. We had a lot of punks and skaters and stuff, and but to like actually like cool, and this is what I am. It was I assume it was tough, you know. Me, like my cousins, I have like cousins, you know, cousins been busted. I have cousins that were in the punk scene in Hollywood, you know, back in, you know, they're 10 years older than me, so they're in their 50s. Yeah. You know, so they were like, you know, that was their thing, you know, cousins that grew up in the Valley, you know, so if anything, they had more of a mixture of friends than I did. Yeah. But it was, you know,
yeah, I mean, maybe that was just like because I was like really, really in it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where I didn't see all this other stuff like going on.
You know? Oh, and then, and then another thing too, culturally, to parents, old school Latino parents, that's weird.
Yeah.
You know,
you're not dressing.
You're weirdo. Yeah. Like, what the heck's wrong with you? You know, you're weird. Or if they're really religious, you know, it's devil music. You know, what's wrong with you? You know, so it's crazy, because I would see that and I would think like, wow, they're not even out there like dressing like, you know, gangsters or, you know, G'd up. They're just, you know, wearing what they wore, and just, you know, they listen to their music and not bothering them. And their parents were just like, just as bad, you know, and it was sad. You know, it was sad to see some of my friends just become, you know, drug addicts and on the streets, and, you know, and why? Because they just like different music. It for me, it wasn't because my parents were like, you know what, we support you as long as, you know, you're not out there doing anything bad. Yeah. You know, and if you want to, they probably wanted me to dress more like a punk than, you know, than get all G'd up every day, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. I definitely, I admire you as a family man, and I love what you're doing with your kids and how you're connected to your kids. And then you, like, I do see you like post a lot about like your family that has like passed away, and like there's this really strong connection, which we can talk a little bit about in a minute. So when you you moved out, or when did you start culinary school, and what led you to
So what got me, like, I've always liked cooking, right? My pops, rest in peace, my grandfathers, the men in my family have always cooked good. You know, my mom cooks good. So I always thought like, I'd be cool to, you know, be a chef, you know. And when I was in elementary school, I remember everybody was, you know, writing down what they want. They want to be cops and firemen and doctors, and, you know, and they're, you know, the teachers giving them like, oh, you know, that's awesome. And then they read you know, Adam wants to be a chef. And then my teacher was like, such a hard job. Why would you want to do that? And I'm like, yo,
I'm like anything to the kids that want to be like fire.
Doctors. And so I was like, okay, you know, and that was, just didn't think about it for a long time. And then, you know, I hit high school, and things started getting real. Things started getting real. Friends started dying. The streets were, it wasn't a game. Like, even though we were kids, it wasn't a game. Like it was heavy out there.
Yeah.
And
you had to figure it out really quick, right?
Really quick,
because you could end up going down that other path.
No, yeah, really quick. And I was still in that environment. I was still in that environment. I guess people would know me for my friends and who we were with. So I mean, we were out there on the streets, and so they put me in a program called the Travel and Tourism Program, and that kind of focused on the travel industry, hotel, hospitality, all that stuff.
Yeah. Who put you in the program?
A counselor.
The counselor. Okay.
And I was like, all right, whatever. I was like, something cool. And but they really, I guess the two teachers that really, I could say, just really cared for, like, hey, you need to be careful out there. They really, really cared. They were the head of that program there at that time, and just kind of one thing led to another. People that sponsored the program heard that I like cooking. I got my first internship at the Century Plaza Hotel, like summer of '96. Like summer of '96. I think back now, I'm like, damn, I'm old. Summer of '96. Still a fool.
A year later, I went to prison in '97.
Yeah, see, that's crazy. And I know you're a couple years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 45, just turned 45, and so it was crazy. It was just a different, it blew my mind, because it's just such a different,
Well, going outside of where you were at,
yeah,
it's just eyes wide open, and it just opened up. Like, wow, there's actually more going on in the world than just
in the hood.
Yeah.
And again, I just wanted to work. Just your normal labor job. I wanted to work where my dad worked. Because he got paid okay. And, just your hood, dream, I guess, sometimes, you just want to maintain, still live in the hood and still have your homies, but have a good job and kind of like an underachiever, I guess. But like you said, it just kind of opened the door, wow, this cooking thing's cool. This is what I want to do, and it was kind of tough going through there, because once I got through the program, and I was like, I felt like quitting school and just working here. And the lady that was in charge of the program, but for the hotel, she was like, no, you need to go back to school. You need to go back to high school. You need to finish and, go to college. So that's what I did. I barely had graduated with a 1.8 GPA. I barely made it.
What was her name?
Gemma Gonzalez. I remember.
Shout out to her.
Yeah.
And I mean, all the people that are a part of that administration and school education and actually step up and advocate for you.
So it was my school. I went to Belmont and Fremont. Belmont and Fremont were the two pilot schools. Now I think it's a whole school now, and downtown. But so I thought to myself, okay, you know what? I think I could do something. And
that dog.
She wants to be. Is it a he or she?
As a he.
He wants to be interviewed. That's crazy. But yeah, long story short, I ended up looking at culinary schools, and I couldn't go to the CIA because that was freaking 100.
Were they skating Belmont back in the day too?
Yeah. Oh yeah, bro. Yeah. Skating. The tunnels was still there.
Yeah.
So we got to see that. That place that was a treacherous spot.
For the people that don't know, it came out in colors. This is well before I knew where Belmont Tunnels was, but it was on the border of Echo Park and
I guess it'd be the beginning,
downtown.
Downtown, yeah.
Said Diamond
Street, yeah. Headhunters.
I smoked sherm. It's a whole nother story, but I smoked sherm with those guys one time. That's crazy, man. Belmont Tunnels, talk a little bit about the history of that if you can, because I love that type of stuff, and just to know that there's condos there now.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy it's sad and crazy to see that it was a history. So the Belmont Tunnels are right across the street from Belmont, or were across the street from Belmont. And I think it used to be an old trolley tunnel where the trolley used to be back in the day.
Yeah.
And it just ended up being, where if you're a graph head and you were about it, you would come and risk your life, because, you don't want to get caught by any of the neighborhoods around there, because, at that time, taggers weren't.
It was
Yeah. Tigers weren't welcome, unless you knew somebody that knew somebody, and but so you would see just these crazy pieces, and people would just be all the crazy famous graph hits have been there. If you know, you know. If you're a real one, you're a real one. And I guarantee that all those graph hits have some type of like story. It'd be cool to walk, drive by or walk by and see someone, doing a big burner or something, or we would see
It was like a, I would say,
yard kind of.
yeah, I was gonna say it was like almost like a smaller than a football field for sure, but like maybe like half of that, and it was like square, and then they had the building that was to the right of it that was all abandoned, and then you could see that would be like on the south part of the yard.
Yeah.
That's where the tunnel was like closed off.
Yeah, it was closed off, and just the 4 walls or 3 walls, and sometimes they'd be playing like this sport, like Mayan cats would be there.
Yeah. I was gonna say I wanted you to talk about that because that's what I got to experience, and they were doing like. That.
It was it was, so like I said, I mean it was just not only a spot where people would go ride and do their thing, but it was culturally, stuff happened there, like sports and I would trip out, like, what the heck was that, like, what are they playing, and it was like a crazy like soccer.
Were they doing like the hand, like, I was trying to figure out like what they were, because when I went, if my memory is correct, it was like soccer but handball. Like, were they using the hands to okay,
it was crazy. I'm not too sure what it was called, but it was a sight to see.
If you know what it was called, or if you remember that time, please comment, like, because I definitely want to know what they were.
And it was dope. It was dope to see
people sell it, like they were like selling food and stuff. Like,
and that's something else that like inspired me to cook, but not only to cook, but to like help people, and that's one of the things that we pride ourselves, with East Los Musubi, is trying to do a lot of community work. Whether it's just cooking for people or giving people, that might have, their financial needs are not there, or whatever the case is. Just, we hook them up with food, kind of blend that together, because
there's a lot that happened in between there, right? Like, I mean, I've known you for quite some time. I don't even know if East Los Musubi was, if you guys had started it, like
right before. Yeah, when we met right before, and then 2014 is when we started.
2014.
Yeah.
So you had went to culinary school, did that. What was that process for you after?
Yeah. So, back up. I went to LA Trade Tech, and again, getting there was like, it was tough. It was tough because my parents didn't go to college. There's not too many college, students in my family. So, we all learned together. I learned, how to fill out financial aid and all this stuff, but it was all new, it was all new. And I went to the counselor at Belmont my senior year, and the college counselor, and oh man, that dude, Jim Thorpe, Mr. Thorpe. And I let him know, like, I want to go to LA Trade Tech, He's like, LA Trade Tech? That was like, because it's a trade school, community college, So, that wasn't on his agenda to help anybody that wants to go to those schools.
Right.
He just wanted to help all the kids that were making, straight A's, going to universities, this, whatever. So when I said that, I was like, yeah, I want to go to the culinary program. It's a culinary program. And then he had like a dusty old like catalog, and I was mad. I was like, this fool, like, I'm over here trying to, steer myself in the right direction. And this is, and then he was like, oh, does your dad work at a grocery store? Or, like, because I could give, you could sign up for these what was it? These scholarships. I was like, my dad don't work at no grocery store. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but, it was just those, like, I don't know, that back then it was a lot of, stereotypes. I guess these teachers didn't.
Yeah, like this all or nothing.
Yeah, it was weird.
Right, if you didn't fit into that category of one of those kids, it's like, But, you know, I was also thinking, I wonder if it was like an expectation thing, like where it's like, oh, no, you could do better than that. But he never presented it to you like that.
It was, no, yeah. I mean, you know, it was what it was.
Yeah.
Like it was what it was back then. I mean, you know, teachers were old
Yeah.
and old school. So if you figure back in the 90s, you know, they were in their, you know, 50s, 60s. So, you know, their ideology was like old school,
Yeah.
you know, and they were in the ghetto. So they were just like, they didn't understand us. You know, they didn't understand what our everyday struggle was, you know, and not only if you were involved in street stuff, but just being a normal kid, you know, and I feel like we all went through the same stuff. You know, some of us might have looked for it more and might have been down from different stuff, but at the same time, you got to understand that area was, you know, just heavily, just basically all immigrants coming from war, you know, coming from civil war, coming from, you know, just horrible conditions. And so it wasn't just, you know, the gang problem, you know, it was just people just trying to make it, you know, and gangs were kind of just the afterthought, I guess.
Yeah. And then not having that resource too, like in those spaces, well, you know, now it's completely different, but yeah, in those spaces where you actually need the most help, the people like Mr. Thorpe, they didn't have the know-how or even maybe like the knowledge to even try to approach, oh man, this situation is different. Let me try to figure out what would be the best for this individual.
Yeah. And, so then I mean, now as an adult, I think back like, wow, what if I would have just, you know, took that and been like, fuck it. I mean,
yeah,
no one wants to help me, you know, let me just, whatever, you know, what if
like a lot of people
kids do,
yeah,
you know, a lot of, and then, so it's, it was a crazy time.
I was just going to say too, they had Scared Straight. I remember getting in trouble and they put me in Scared Straight.
Yeah.
At that time I was living, I want to say Lancaster.
Yeah.
And yeah, they sent us to like the local jail and had like these older guys with tattoos like yelling at us and talking about how we get raped and and it, you know, it didn't work on anybody, but it's interesting like that approach without like really having any data to back up whether this was it was probably more traumatic for like these kids that like are already suffering from trauma and like dysfunctional environments. So you're going to put them in this situation where that's exactly what they're probably getting at home.
Yeah.
And then expect them to like have this aha moment, you know, but yeah, that was just, those things are interconnected, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was you know, they fought trauma with trauma and it doesn't make, you know, it like cancels it out. It doesn't make sense. It's like, well, how about trying to steer them or, you know, have these resources to help these kids or help the kids, you know? And, so then I signed up LA Trade Tech. And so I was on a waiting list. So I started in 98 and, you know, 2-year program, you know, it was cool. You know, shout out to my chef instructors, Kasper, Chef Sue, like they gave us the real education. And what I mean by real education is they taught us how to function and not just be a chef, but to, you know, essentially like run shit, you know, and every kitchen you go to is not going to have state-of-the-art stuff. So they taught us how to survive. You know, I was lucky enough to be with some of my classmates who were already working in the industry. You know, they were a little bit older than me. You know, beach clubs and stuff, but at the same time they were still hood, so it was crazy. You know, it was a crazy like. I went to school with some characters. You know, I remember my first semester. This guy had to be older than my pops at the time, and you know, he did a long time, and you know, he did long stretches. So every time I think about it now, every time he would talk, because it was a mixed class, you know, it was you know, we had the brothers and the raza, and it was like funny because every time he would talk to me, he'd be like, "Hey, youngster, take a walk." And like if we were walking, like if we're walking the yard, no, I put that on everything. And he was from Hazard. He was from Hazard, as a matter of fact. He was like, "Hey, youngster, come with me." And we would like walk, and then he'd just be like, "You know, you need to watch for these vatos and this and that." I'm like, "Bro, we're in school." he lasted a year, and then he went. If I'm not mistaken, at that time he ended up cooking at the Midnight Kitchen.
My bad. Hey, what time you got to be at here?
Whenever you tell me.
Oh, okay.
Good.
Oh, no, we're good. I mean, I just wanted to go,
Yeah. No, you
Good.
tell
All
me.
right, so big homie was walking.
Yeah. It was funny. It was funny because it was, even though we were just everything was separated, like it was wild. My classmates were cool. Everybody. We were together for 2 years, and everybody worked in the industry, and it was a fun time.
At that time when you were going through it, what was your process in terms of not your process, but like your philosophy on cooking, and how did it evolve when you were going through school?
So my process at that time was just like I was trying to figure out not so much my style, but my philosophy, because one of my first real gigs, like the chef asked me, "What's your philosophy on cooking?" By that time I had already developed and liked, and I take it back to my grandpa and his enchiladas. Like, I've always loved the simplicity of the ingredients, but handled with care. So it was just I don't know if I could describe it as just more of family style, home, steaks and stuff like that. So that was my my interest. I mean, I love learning traditional. I learned traditional French cooking. I love learning the history of it. I love diving into the cultural part of it, and so my foundation is
Stop.
he's just not having it.
Stop. I'm gonna cover you up. Hey, stop.
As soon as you walk over here,
Did you get into so you said you studied French cuisine when you were in there, or
no. When you go to culinary school, that's kind of the foundation they teach you, because the French were the ones that kind of started the brigade system, which is when you work in a traditional restaurant or hotel, it's the saucier that makes the sauces, the charcuterie stuff that make all the sausages and force meats, they call them, and chef de cuisine. So that's the French are responsible for that.
okay.
So the traditional way you see that we wear our coats and our toques and all that stuff, that all comes from the French. So I believe they're the ones that started the first culinary school, which is the Cordon Bleu back in the day, Escoffier. So that's where so you go to culinary school, basic. I mean, I don't know now because I've been out of school for over 20 years. So it's, but when I went, it was a traditional.
Go ahead and talk about that. The French. Shut up, dog.
This will be interviewed.
Yeah, next time.
I know.
Yeah.
But so back then, I know, and then really, really, really famous culinary schools. I mean, that's your foundation, is French cooking, and then from there, you kind of develop your style, but all the techniques will be French influenced. You go to these really, really expensive restaurants. I mean, it's all, French techniques, and it's whether they're, marinating something or how they cook something, or, it all goes back to mainly French, not, I don't want to say all of it, but mainly French, mixed in maybe with whatever type of food they're cooking. If it's their culture, they might, mix in their stuff, so it's cool to learn a foundation. But like I said, our chefs, they taught us look, this is how it's going to be. It's hard. You're not going to go out there and make a lot of money. You're probably crazy for even wanting to be a chef. I mean, the first day of school, my instructor was like, how many of you want to learn how to cook or came here to learn how to cook? So, people raise their hands. And then she straight out was like, you know what? This ain't the place for you. He's like, if you want to learn how to cook, go cook at the YMCA.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, what the heck? She was just like, no, we're teaching you how to be, captains in the industry, how to run it, how to have your own restaurant. We're teaching you more than just, throwing some stuff in a pan and cooking. And then it made sense, because it's more than that. So,
especially if you want to get ahead.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, you can do all the positions. I mean, it seems to be the case that for all the people that are successful in that realm.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely not an expert on it, other than watching the Food Network.
Yeah.
Knowing a couple of people, but they've worked from the bottom as a busboy all the way up to the top, and they had to go through the entire process to understand it in order to put themselves in a position to be successful, because that's really the only way that you can kind of be successful is like doing your own thing, right?
Yeah, and it's also developing the respect of your people you work with.
Yeah,
and that's a whole other thing, and that's one of the reasons why I liked Anthony Bourdain and I respected him.
I was just thinking about him when you said that, because he embodied that, right?
He embodied that, and up until, I mean, even now, no one recognizes the back of the house, right? Because all these celebrity chefs, and it's all about them and what they do. But okay, but who's cooking your food for you? Who's executing what you're doing? And when Anthony Bourdain started doing that and showing his crew and explaining where his crew is from, from different parts of Mexico, from Central America, I was like, wow. That's respect, because that's another part of my cooking identity is that respect for that part of it. Because when I started cooking, when I got out there, I was treated like just any other, Mexican that started working, because when you, even though you go to culinary school, it doesn't really hold a lot of weight. You just know what you're doing and you understand the process. And again, our chefs taught us that. They taught us whatever chef you're working under, wherever you're at, your slate is clean. You need to focus on whatever needs to be done in that kitchen. So you don't have a big ego, you don't have a big head, you don't have none of that. You work up to, getting your you pay your dues, and then with that comes your, you definitely ascension up,
Yeah, you definitely have to have a certain type of personality to be in a really confined, tight space, going to battle every night, right?
And that's what we say. We're going to battle. We're in the trenches now because we're on the line. That's what we call the line. And it's so like I said, my chefs prepared us for that. So when we got out there, it wasn't nothing surprising. Which I've worked with kids that have gone, or adults that have worked or gone to these schools where it's just about money, and they just want your money,
Right.
And they kind of just sell them a dream, and they get out there, and they find out it's not, it's not what your instructors taught you. We didn't have beef, but we had a little issue with another culinary school when I was in school. It was funny, bro. It was it was an ongoing thing, because they would sign up for these community events, Habitat for Humanity. They would okay, we're going to cater, and they would last minute, for whatever reason, they would cancel. So they would call us at LA Trade Tech, and we, go and knock it out. And, but it's funny because I would be one of the last restaurants I worked at. There was a culinary school down the street, and the students would come in every once in a while, and they'd just kind of be like laughing, or, and I'm in there, we're cooking, or, sweating, they're watching us, and just wait till you come out of here, because you know what? It's not going to be fun and games anymore. Now you're going to be, it's real. It gets real fast.
I've met people that have gone to culinary school, and they did okay in that space when they were there, but when they actually got out into the field, because of their personality, I mean, all the things that you're telling me now, it's I understand it so much more clearly why that particular person didn't make it. I mean, because you definitely also have to be a people person. You have to understand the hierarchy of it, right? If you're someone that doesn't like to follow directions, you're definitely not gonna
No,
Go
not at
for
all.
that.
Yeah. And so when I got out of culinary school, I did good. I want to say I did good. And
What was the first job that you had when?
bro, it was it was crazy.
Uh,
When I was ready to leave, I had an offer for to work at the Biltmore. I had an offer to work at catering for Universal Studios, and ultimately the job I took was working at the Jonathan Club in Santa Monica, their Santa Monica property, and it was humbling, bro. It was humbling because again, like I was right out of culinary school, still learning about being an adult, still maturing, bro, like still maturing. And then being in a space where it's, like at that time, I think the club was like ranked within the top 10 of private clubs in the nation. Like it was crazy. It was a crazy like experience. It was the real deal. And it was tough, bro. It was humbling. It was a humbling, and I didn't have a car at that time. I was on the bus. Sometimes my pops would be cool. He worked in Gardena, so he'd be meet me on 23rd in Hoover, and I'd, pick you up. And so wasn't that, so I'd just take the bus, get off, and he would, pick me up and take me to the beach. Yeah. And then I would take the bus home or, take the bus over there. But, and again, another, like, I've got even more respect for my part of the industry in hospitality, because then coming back on the bus, I'd come back through I'd come back through Beverly Hills and stuff, and who would be getting on the bus but the nannies, the cooks, the gardeners, all coming to our side of town, or going back to South Central. So that was another thing that was pretty like humbling too, to see that. Like I'm over here, I went to college, started my career, but I know for a fact that everybody on this bus, they're trying to make ends meet, and so yeah, so that's like another part of my cooking identity is just trying to like represent that, because like you said earlier, we had food and pop-ups before the pop-ups, like before, like we had this whole like I guess, all these pop-up, businesses, like my area, MacArthur Park, Lafayette Park, Echo Park, like all the parks where people, selling food and selling, whatever to make ends meet. Well, yeah, maybe, especially back then. I mean, MacArthur Park, man.
Those driver's license too, when you mentioned earlier. Yeah. I don't know how many, like all the time, every time I pass driver's license.
Yeah. And I tell people about it, and I've had people ask me, hey, did they really do that? I'm like, you kidding me?
I bet they would have like 5, 6 guys out there at
easy
one time.
I remember, like, if you were at the stoplight on 7th and Alvarado, they would just run through the traffic, with their little hands, mikas, yeah. That's social security cards, everything, bro.
I feel like there was a tattoo shop that they would like.
There was.
Do it. Yeah, they would do it out of there. I don't know if that was.
No, yeah.
There was a tattoo shop.
There's a tattoo shop there.
There was like guys that would run up there, and I was.
Yeah, no, it was. It was interesting. It was an interesting time, and it was crazy. It was literally like, but then you think about it, and then you think about how much the cops allow. Right, how much they allow, and then how much then or you see them like picking on the wrong people, right? You see them picking on the the lady selling tamales, or you see the selling churros. Like, well, why are you harassing her when you know what's going on around here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you don't. Yeah, there's deeper stuff like going on.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%, bro. 100%. And lunch trucks too. It was back then it was wasn't a thing.
Roach
coaches.
Yeah, that's like I would not want to eat at one of those back in the day.
Yeah, no, 100%, bro. And it was crazy.
It's definitely crazy the way that it's evolved from that to where it's at now. And it's like, that's what most people desire, right? Like that are within that industry. Your desire eventually landed you with wanting to start your own business, right? After, years. And, I mean, there was a lot of buildup, right?
Yeah.
From the time that humbling experience of cooking at that place on the west side or Santa Monica, and it just didn't happen overnight, right? Like, I mean, you're an individual that has obviously, like, you struggled. You were on the bus, going to your first job, and you had to go through like this long process before you have created something for yourself.
Yeah.
What transpired from, that first job to get into this point to build, I guess, the courage or the character to start your own thing?
Yeah, so this was after, leading into like the last restaurant I worked at. Again, you need benefits, and you need, you don't think about. Janai was little. Me and Doreen my wife Doreen were just like about to get married, and you need benefit. Back then we had to pay for everything. And I think to put them on my insurance back then, it was like 80% of my check or something crazy like that. So I left the industry, that part of the industry, and now I work. I've been working for the last 20 years. I'm a cafeteria manager for LA Unified, which I love. But leading up to that, in 2011, I had a health scare. I got leukemia, like, out of nowhere. Like, it was just a mutation, like a weird, like, I even asked my doctor, like, is it hereditary? Like, what happened? So long story short, I caught a cold, 2011. Wasn't getting better. Doreen and my mom were bugging me to go to the doctor, but wouldn't go. I'm good. I went.
Stubborn.
Yeah.
Stubborn. Yeah, that's how they have a word for that.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm cool. I'm good. But I wasn't, and so on, like, I think it was like the last week of January, 2011, Doreen and my mom tricked me, and I went into work, and I remember calling my supervisor, and I was like, you know what? All right, I got to go to the doctor because I'm not getting better. It's crazy. I'm going to take a couple of days off because I'm really sick. So I went home. I went in, made sure everything was cool. The kitchen was cool. Went home. Slept from 9 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And I couldn't breathe. It was crazy. And I woke up. Well, Doreen woke me up, and my mom was there. And they're like, oh, you need to go to the ER.
And you were still like, no.
I was like, no, I want to go. I'm cool. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
Maybe some honey and some tea.
I'm straight. Yeah, exactly. I think JJ was little, so everybody was sick. Yeah, Jason was little. Yeah. Janai was little. They were both sick too. Everybody was sick in the house. So my mom took me.
Hey. You were doing good stuff.
And
he's like, I don't like this story. I don't like where this is.
Yeah. So we went to, she took me I went to urgent care. But at that time, I guess my insurance went out of network, so I couldn't go to that urgent care. So my mom was like, well, what do you want to do? It was like 11 o'clock. I said, you know what? Just take me down the street to Huntington Memorial. I might as well. I'm here,
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't feeling well. Now it's like, okay, I got to go. So I went through all, went in, checked in, did all the stuff, vitals, blah, blah, blah. And so they were asking me, well, what's wrong? I just can't shake this cold, I feel bad. My breathing, my asthma's horrible. So then the nurse, he was like, do you have insurance? And I was like, yeah, you know what? I do have insurance. He's like, well, check this out. He was cool. Check this out. He's like, I'm going to call for some blood work right now just to make sure you're cool. He's like, but if you wouldn't have had insurance, he's like, I would have just gave you some antibiotics, sent you home, and, because it's real expensive, So, but since you have insurance and you're good, then let's just do it. Let's just knock it out the way. I said, all right, cool. So, they did their thing. I remember sitting with my mom, and they called me, Mr. Martinez. And so I'm like, yeah. About 45 minutes later, the nurse comes out with a wheelchair. So I look at my mom, and for me, so I walk up to the nurse, and she's like, oh, are you okay? Like concerned, like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm straight. Yeah, I'm like, am I? Yeah, am I good? Let me ask you, am I good? But I was like, I'm cool. I'm cool. And she's like, do you need to sit down? You want me to wheel you over there? And I was like, no, fool. Then it hit me. I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, what's up with the wheelchair? I go, I'm walking fine. Like, I could walk. And then she went down the line, of course, the way I looked, the tats, everything. She was like, are you an intravenous drug user? And I was like, no. Have you, gotten, she's like, have you gotten shot or stabbed like lately? And I was like, yeah, no, straight up. And I was like, nah, I go, or, any type of like surgery or anything. I said, nope, none of that. I go, what's going on, And then she's like, well, sir, I just want to let you know that the doctor's very concerned. I'm like, why? She's like, because your blood counts are like that we see with cancer patients. And I was like, what? She's like, you need a blood transfusion now. And I'm like in shock. And I'm like, what the heck? Can I call my mom? And then I told my mom, and my mom's like, I got to tell Doreen, like, So they put me in. Doctor comes and sees me, and she's like, Mr. Martinez, I'm concerned. I'm like, concerned why? She's like, your blood counts are like low, like really low, and you need a blood transfusion. Like, we don't know what's going on with you. Shit, she's like, we need to admit you. So I was like, what the heck? Like, no way, this is crazy. I'm like in shock. Like,
you went from thinking you had a cold.
Yeah. And boom, they admit me, and they put me, and then all the doctors start coming. Infectious disease control doctor comes. Like, have you been out of the country? Do you know anybody that's been out of the country? We're thinking you have West Nile virus. Like, what the heck's going on? We can't find anything. You look fine. Then they start asking me the questions, that come with having leukemia or like a blood cancer. Like, do you bleed out easy? When you cut yourself, does it take long to heal? And all my answers were no to everything. So they're just like, what is wrong with this dude? Because, he's losing blood and we need it. So they freaking juiced me up, gave me a bunch of blood. And then the oncologist comes. So he's like, Mr. Martinez, the only way we'll be able to tell what's going on is if we give you a bone marrow biopsy. Like, they take a piece of your, like on the side of your tailbone. So like your waist, like that hard bone right there, they take a piece of it and they, take it to the lab and see what's going on. I guess all the genetic markers are in that little, it's like the size of your pinky nail, and that shit hurt because they could only topically, numb you. But when they go in your bone and when they pull out that bone marrow head, it was, I had 3 of them. No, 1, 2. I had 3 of them done, but I was like, cool, do it. I'm like, I want to know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Of course, let's get it cracking. So he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm not gonna, the worst part, he's like, I'm not gonna lie, it hurts. He's like, but I think the worst part is the anticipation leading up to having this done. He's like, so I'm not gonna wait a day. I'm not gonna do it tomorrow or later. I'm gonna do it right now. I was like, better to do it. Yeah, I was like, cool, thank you. And it's true. I couldn't have imagined like having them wait or having to wait, And that's kind of like the unique thing about my cancer was that everything happened so aggressive. It moved so fast that I didn't have time to think, just to react and go with whatever was going on. So he did it. We got the results. So he came in and, he was just like, I'm sorry, but it's kind of what we thought, you have leukemia. So yeah, so he ends up telling me, and my parents had just walked out. It was just me and Doreen in the room, and he just, unfortunately you have leukemia. We're gonna figure out what the next step is, so we're just like, damn. I was like, yeah, again, you kind of like, what do you do?
Process all that.
Yeah. So I had to we had to just think about it, and yeah, bro, it was wild to think that, to hear that, right? You don't know what's going on, like what's the next steps. So then I think maybe a few hours later down the line, the infectious disease doctor comes, and it was funny now I think about it. He kind of sounded like the teacher from Ferris Bueller. So he was like talking about it. And it was, and it's crazy because it's like I'm going through this experience, but then I'm like, in my head I'm like, oh, this dude freaking sounds like the teachers. So he was like, you might have a rare form of leukemia. So I was like, fuck, I'm done. Like, that's how it's a wrap for me. Like, you hear rare leukemia, like, he's like, we have to do another test. He's like, but we're kind of positive that you have a rare form of leukemia. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking like, damn, I'm done. Like, that's it for me. But he said, well, if there was ever a leukemia to have, it'd be that one. And I was like, and then it was like, then it was a different head trip. Then I was like, wait, what? He's like, the one you have, it's very rare. But he's like, there's like a 98% survival rate, so it's, your prognosis is good. He's like, it's just crazy right now. He's like, we just need to make sure, we don't want to get your hopes up or whatever. So, so me and Doreen were just like, what the heck, So then the oncologist comes and he just like, I could treat you here at Huntington, no problem. Or I could send you to UCLA Medical Center where they're kind of world renowned in cancer, cancer study. Whatever you want, I'll make the call and we'll do it. So then, me and Doreen discussed it. I was just like, let's go, let's do it. I mean, that's what they're known for, whatever, Yeah. So they picked me up, in an ambulance and they shipped me off to UCLA. And it's crazy, bro, because for whatever reason, when I hear cancer or when I heard cancer back then, or even now, I always heard that you always had to stay in the hospital for a month. I don't know why. That was it. Like, I just felt like your hospital stay is going to be for a month. So when I got sick and they admitted me and they told me what's going on, I thought to myself, okay, you know what? Probably going to be here for a month. And sure enough, when I got to UCLA, they met me and they put me in this crazy like room around, or maybe bigger. And it was like just hazmat suits and, it was crazy. They had its own little lab inside the room. Like, it was wild.
It was like E.T. or something.
Yeah, no. They had one of those suits on. Yeah, it was crazy. Lady comes in, I'm not lying to you, bro, like this with a towel, and it's just all these like bottles, like some look like Coke bottles, like old school like Coke bottles, and it was just all for blood, and they just fucking took blood out of me, like just crazy.
You did a transfusion? Is that what you did, or is that, or they were doing it for testing?
The testing. So I had a few, like, I don't know, few pints at Huntington, and then I got to UCLA, and because I guess my blood counts kind of stabilized, so then they shipped me off. When I got there, then they, came with all these, they had to do their own test, and so the oncologist came in with me and Doreen and was like, yo, he's like, I'm not going to lie to you. He's like, you're young. He's like, what happens to a lot of young patients is they get depressed. So surround yourself with family and just try to think positive. And so I was like, all right. And, yeah, bro, then they, went and took all this blood, and then the doctor came in the next day. Oh, no. Yeah, he came in the next day, and this was like a Sunday or something. And, he was like, we could take your sample. He's like, I hate to do this to you. He's like, we could take your sample of bone marrow from Huntington, your wife. So Doreen had to go pick it up on Monday. He's like, or we could just do another one for ourselves. I was like, fuck it, do it. I was like, do it. Like, like,
let's get this done.
Yeah. And it was crazy because I think they either thought I was just, wacko, because I was just like, well, fuck it, let's do it. Whatever it is, let's do it. Or they just was like, they were happy to see me every day because I was in the cancer ward and people were just there, passing away, So that was heavy, that was a heavy, and I could imagine for them, I mean, that's their job. So they would come into my room and be like, hey, Adam, like, can we sit down for a little bit? Because, it's just, we're glad to come in here to see you, because you're probably one of our most lively patients, and so then,
what was the name of the rare leukemia?
So it's, yeah. So AML is a subtype of leukemia, which is one of the most aggressive ones, right? Crazy one. If it's not caught, it's aggressive. I had a subtype of the subtype. So AML has a subtype called APL, and what that is like an I think it's like an over accumulation of your white blood cells, and you're kind of starts attacking each other, and they don't, go away. So it's a crazy like mutation, and yeah. So I ended up It like literally accounts for either 10 or 15% of all cancer patients. Like it's a small, and it's a weird like Hispanic men over 50 or something crazy like that. And that's why I asked my oncologist over there at UCLA, was like, yo, like, is this hereditary? That it's maybe someone in my family, or can I pass this on to my kids? Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, just a random mutation of your blood cells. Like it just happened. Like,
and I couldn't have won the lottery with something.
Right. Yeah. Why can't it be something cool? And it was crazy. Yeah. So then, and then what made it rare was you're able to fight it with vitamin A, retinoic acid, which is what people use for their skin, like the cosmetic stuff, and that vitamin A kills off the leftover white blood cells.
Just vitamin A.
And so then with that, that's how you end up becoming cancer free, if you're able to withstand the the treatments, because I still had to do chemo. I did chemo so I got to UCLA, they did their test, found out, they came back and told me, okay, you have the rare form, which is, cool, we'll treat it. So right then is when I started chemo in the hospital. And, but back up when I was talking to the doctor, I told him, he's like, you're going to have to stay here for a little bit. And I go, like a month, huh? I was just like, it was in my head, bro. I don't know. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah.
How's it?
Oh, you're right. And I did stay a month. And, so then I started chemo, and luckily my body really adhered to the stuff, to the treatments.
What was that like coming out of something like that? Did you that happened 2002?
No, 11. 2011.
And when did you start?
2014.
And sustain.
So a few years later.
What was born out of that experience for you?
I think what was born out of it, but I didn't know back then, that I know now, going through therapy and stuff. It got me to appreciate things. It got me to accept things, and not be, I don't know, like I wasn't upset with anybody. I think I was more worried about, my family than anything. Because I always felt like, well, God forbid I go, I'm going to be gone. Everybody's on earth is going to be here having to deal with, the loss of me. So I tried not to like feel sorry for myself, and just kind of push through the tough times, and up until now going through, therapy, I've learned more of a healthy way to do it. You think, I guess you kind of just go with the tools you're given, and you learn, and I think we might think like, okay, everything I'm doing is the right thing, but then you get to a point you kind of hit a roadblock, and then there's the mirror, and then you got to look at the person in the mirror and think like, am I dealing with this stuff, or I'm just, shutting it down, or, compartmentalizing it and just pushing it down and not dealing with it. It's pretty wild. It's a pretty wild, because I feel like up until now, I didn't really like think, or I don't know, like they told me I should go to like, like a group for, cancer survivors. Or go to therapy for being a cancer survivor, and I never I was like, for what? I'm cool, It was what it was, it happened, it's done, let me just live my life now, and hope and pray that it doesn't come back, and but I wish I would have, because then then the survivor's guilt comes when you hear about somebody that passes. When they come to you because they feel that you have the experience. So, they saw me go and just kind of deal with it and but not just get so like caught up or stuck in my head about my situation, that I've had people come and say, I just got diagnosed with cancer, or my family members diagnosed with cancer. What do you do? And that really was that became like heavy on me, because I felt like, number one, my cancer was different. Like, I really had to think, like, you know, think and accept whatever happened is going to happen, because there was no, like, I didn't have no tumor where they could take it out or go through radiation to shrink it. There was no, nothing to take off my body or remove. It's a blood cancer. So either treatment's going to work or it's not. And then maybe you might be able to, like, try like stem cell or get, bone marrow from a family member or a friend or whatever.
You had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
What was born out of it, in terms of, like, I guess your perspective? You had, like, said that you had, like, did therapy eventually, and that was because you started feeling the guilt.
Yeah, well, it was a therapy started for a lot of stuff.
Sure, I'm sure.
Yeah, therapy started from, for just like, childhood traumas, adolescent traumas, environmental traumas.
Yeah.
Stuff that you don't really think about growing up. Why? Because it just becomes like, it's a normal thing, right? Until
we've minimized, like, all the crazy intense.
No,
things
and it's funny because it's like, if we fast forward till around that time I got sick and whatever, so from that point on, all the new people we've met, and they grew up different, so our talks are different. Like, when they're talking about school and they're talking about high school and the quote unquote normal high school experience, it was like, in my head, I'm like, or then I start talking, and then everybody gets quiet. And then everyone's like, "Oh, wow," and it's crazy because you do start to think about it, right? And you do start to think, like, all right, maybe that wasn't normal, to see a corner full of, food slanging since the morning you go to school. It's not, normal to go to sixth grade and there's a stretch of Vermont going to my middle school where, that was like, just to get to the corner was nuts, because, people get socked up in them. And I'd be like, little kid, like, thinking, man, it's early to be hit with a bat. You know what I mean?
Oh, really? Don't you want cough?
Yeah. And it's not normal. It's not normal. You start having kids and you realize, like,
mm-hmm.
I was his age, with Jason, like, when he was 12, 13, like, I would always think, like, that was a time in the year that things just, like, it was it for me, like I was just done with everything. And you think about it, 12, 13 years old, you see a little 13, 12-year-old still playing with toys, and you think back to when you're 12 and 13 and how the environment and everything was different. And things you saw, things you went through. And that's why I was saying, like, it's not only everybody that's been in the streets, but, like, just your community as a whole, what they've been through, parents, like I said, not having their papers, but having to, like, work and make ends meet, and those abuses, those people getting maybe abused by their bosses in terms of, like, just discrimination, and, you need a job, so, I'm gonna treat you. Yeah, I'm gonna treat you however I want. And so that was, then your reaction to things aren't because, in a sense of what the person has done to you or the situation. It's old situations. It's old feelings that are like they get triggered and you don't even know it. Like subconsciously, like someone's tone of voice. Or someone's, the way they look at you, or, all that, you get triggered and you react, and then people are like, what the heck is wrong with this fool, And then you're like, well, this person did this, or this person talked to me a certain way. And it's not the person, it's the trauma, And
that was, I actually took an anger management class with ARC earlier, because we got to go through all these group.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like the consensus, like with everybody that's been in that type of situation. You know, it's like being able to regulate those emotions. And
Yes.
even understand like what it is, where it's coming from, why you're feeling that way. But just to be able to have that moment to actually think about it, as opposed to just reacting out of like fight or flight, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm learning through therapy is that fight or flight, that reaction, trying to have that moment of clarity where you're just like, okay, you know what? Am I gonna react? Am I reacting because I'm upset, or is it just something that's just like, you know, just second nature? Because it is. Sometimes you do. You know, it's like we're hyper vigilant. You know, we're hyper vigilant, and we're even with meeting people. You know, and you're just like, so I can imagine like you coming out of prison, or friends or family coming out. You're hyper vigilant. Why? Because you have to take care of yourself. You have to understand.
I'm still that way.
Yeah, me too.
Crazy.
And you have to understand what's around you, the environment. And I was taught that since I was little by my pops, and my mom, even my mom too. So I understand that, about people that have been incarcerated, because even though I've never been incarcerated, we're in the same environment.
It all stems from
these
types.
And again, my dad would always, my dad did his thing. He left. Yeah, I think he, left the house when he was 14 on his own. It's just very street smart. And so since I was, little, it was always, don't walk with your head down. What are you doing walking with your head down? You need to look up. I remember getting, the first time I ever got mugged, I was in 6th grade, and these two big fools, men, probably smokers, but they jacked me for my little bus pass with the screwdriver, and it was crazy because I was just talking about this with my therapist. Like, I felt like it was my fault because my parents I would take the bus right there on Vermont, and they would tell me, don't stay with the kids, right? Because it was just a gang of us, either going to Western or going back to, Echo Park or MacArthur Park side of town. So both sides, both directions, there was always a gang of kids. Everybody getting out of school. So they always tell me, you know what? Don't become a victim. Stay with the crowd. Get on the bus, come home. That day, what do? I'm just by myself in the corner, just, chilling away from the crowd. And who comes? Boom. They jacked me. They were nice enough to give me a transfer to get home,
Very nice.
Yeah, and it's crazy, bro, because it's like you think about it, and I wasn't scared to go to school the next day.
Yeah, did you even talk about it?
No, because I went home and I told my pops.
Yeah.
They didn't like get like crazy mad at me, but they were upset. Like, well, were you alone?
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah. So
But it's interesting, right? That you felt that shame, or that you,
like it was my bad. Like I should have listened.
Yeah.
And not too many people know this, but my pops, rest in peace, and his twin, my tío Julio, rest in peace. Like, they were like, well, who was it? Do you know who it was? And I was like, well, it happened over here. And, they got the heat, and they were like going to go and look for these people. Like I said, my pops was about it, but he wasn't, he didn't gangbang, and stuff. But, he was with the business. And so I was like, damn, I'm going to go friggin' pop this fool. But,
right. Which in itself is also like this, like minimizing like that, the response of like someone like going to do that. It's like, oh, hell yeah, you're going to do that for me?
Yeah.
And then normally, because you would do it yourself.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. So, growing up, like I wasn't like, I knew my dad and my uncles and my cousins, and, because like I said, I had older cousins. Like I wasn't scared in that sense of like, if something happened to me, I know, it's going to be on. But I was like, well, I don't want anybody to go to jail. I was still, I wasn't, doing anything. I was just a little kid in 6th grade. And so that was crazy, but you think about it now, and it's, how crazy is that?
I mean, therapy for me has been one of the reasons that I've started doing this, why I started playing basketball, why I'm going to school again.
That's awesome. Congratulations with that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to UC San Diego or Cal State Long Beach. So
Nice. Me and Doreen got married at Cal State Long Beach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have like a Japanese garden.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's dope.
I'm still trying to figure it out. We'll see.
I hear that.
Yeah.
No, we're not tweaking.
When I figure
We're not-
so it's regular.
You hear that? You hear that?
See?
All right, stop. Stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a crazy breakthrough the other day. Which I'm not going to get into because I'm here for you. Like therapy, I was going to say, like, helps you like figure out what you want to do with your life. Did it go out?
No, I think I
Okay.
hit it with my chin.
Oh, gotcha. That's weird. I think it helps you like examine like what's important for you, like to bring up all the stuff that we repress, right? And that could be like through your art or anything creative, things that you want for yourself, right? Because we tend to create, just like you create this sort of perception about things when you're a kid, those carry over into your adult life where it's just like, do I want to work here? Did I want to like go to like, and how has that helped you with where you're at now with starting East Los Musubi? And let's talk about that. Like, what was that process like?
So that process was, like I said, I've always cooked. So even my career outside of my 9 to 5, I guess you could say, me and Doreen have always like catered here and there, and done stuff for parties and everything. And we were approached by our ex-partner to, start, but we were already doing musubis, which is like Doreen's culture being, Japanese and Mexican, so we were already starting to cater, and that was already a forethought. Like we were already thinking about going that direction. And
why? What was it? Was it just to fuse the two cultures together?
It was well, we wanted to start something, right? We knew we wanted to have, some type of pop-up catering and kind of expand.
Yeah, where was that born from? Like, well, I always like to examine those moments when people decide to do something, or what led up to it, so other people can kind of gauge where they're at, like, and hear like, oh man, I'm having this thought of doing this, and
it was I think it was because Doreen was already baking, so she was already making cakes.
She's made all pretty much all my daughters like cakes.
Yeah. So she was a neighborhood cake lady, and guess it was just it was the next step, the next step to try. I've always been like, I've always liked to encourage people to do things. Just do it. That's what my parents would always tell me.
You told the doctors.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do that shit. Whatever you got to do it.
and real fast, it's a funny story. Real fast. So when they were getting my bone marrow, when they're freaking, it's like this crazy like thing, and the doctor's sweating, and then like, oh, like did you play sports? And I was like, I used to play baseball. And I'm like there, like, he has a sting in my back.
This conversation.
Yeah. And he's like trying, and he's like, it's like, yeah, you could hear it. It was like, I don't know if there was a hinge on it, but you could hear the metal clanking. And he's just like, bro, he's like, I can't get I'm trying to get a good sample. And so I'm like, well, I'll do it. So then, he did it. And then he's like, if you want, he's like, I could just take a piece of your bone because it's just extra, like, extra stuff for us to look at. So he couldn't do it. I was like, bro, just do it. And I'm like, just do it. And then they're like laughing, like all the nurses, and he's like sweating, and his hair's all crazy. And he's like, bro, I can't. I go, that's cool. You don't have to. Yeah, no, it was wild. But yeah, I don't know what I thought about that. But back to that. I've always like, people come to me, with or us in whole, my family, and just like, oh, we want to do this, or they'll ask me about food stuff, and I've always been the type to like just, hey, do it, see what happens.
Yeah.
That the worst you could do is not work, or you might do something else. It's you're not doing it now, like just do it, and that stems from being discouraged or, working in the industry. And then you got those old heads that like, don't waste your time. Why are you here? And, why'd you go to school and blah, blah, blah. And no, you're going to do that stupid. Why, Yeah, no, never, and part of it is, just being an idiot. The other part is just like being threatened because they don't want you to take their job,
True.
And I've worked with grumpy old chefs that, got fired from Atlantic City and they had to come back to LA and, and they're just hate life.
Yeah.
So I always thought, even now with my current job, like my current 9 to 5, like I've always like, I know how that feels, I know how that feels for people to shoot you down before you even like try anything. So I try to be like, look, it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, it's easy. Go do it. No, it's going to be tough. You're going to work, but do it. I think you'll feel better about yourself if you at least try it, So yeah.
That's that wisdom from the culinary teachers that you had.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to tell them it's tough. Food service is tough, and it's a lot of work, and so like now, so then we start our thing, we do musubis because I felt like a lot of people, and not even the famous people doing tacos now or taqueros right now, but just like the old school lunch trucks, the old school, people on the street selling tacos to make a living. Like I felt like, you know what, that's their thing, like I respect them for what they're doing. I'm not trying to like, get in where I fit in. Let's do something different. And nobody was making musubis. And but I adopted that style. That's why we make our musubis made to order, like a taquero. You come up, you order, boom, we make them fresh. Traditionally, sometimes they're just held, made in a day, a few dozen, and then, you go and buy them. They're saran wrapped and stuff, and that's the old school OG way to do it. We kind of just wanted a little fresher way, just textural.
Right. For the people that have never eaten one, what is
musubi is Hawaiian. So there's old musubi, which is the original Japanese way, and which is kind of like a triangle onigiri, which is just a triangle of rice and a little piece of nori. Sometimes they stuff it with tuna, or they'll stuff it with ume, which is like almost like a saladito. And that's the OG way, right? From Japan. From Hawaii, it's with Spam. So you make a brick of rice, teriyaki. And another thing we do different is that we don't saute the Spam in the teriyaki, only because when we started, we were out on the street and we would have to make a lot. And what happens with, something sugar-based, it's going to burn. And I would have to be...
I didn't.
Okay. So anything with sugar is going to burn.
Okay.
And especially when we're making them.
Yeah.
So I have to be cleaning my griddle so that they don't taste like a burnt piece of meat, So we thought, okay, you know what? We'll make the Spam on the griddle, add the teriyaki sauce to the rice, and then wrap it. And so that's what it is. It's just like a Hawaiian power bar, Spam, rice, nice snack, handheld, and it's pretty sustainable,
Yeah.
So we decided with that.
I was gonna say, how was the first pop-up for you? Where was it at?
It was at our first pop-up was at Mi Vida in Highland Park, Mi Vida Boutique. Shout out to Dom and Noel. They've always, sorry, I talk with my hands, bro. I'm a hand talker.
What are you, Italian?
I talk with my hand. At work, you should see it. The teachers and the students are like, I'm like, sorry, I talk with my hands. I can't contain it.
I remember that shop when it was in South Pasadena for a second. Yeah, that was way back in the day. I think I bought like a post. I forgot the poster, but yeah.
Right in the middle of chemo, almost got down with some fools. See, another crazy thought. Like, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I was all skinny from chemo. But
not even on your best day, pal.
Not even. I had to walk home because I was so heated. But anyway, so Mi Vida, they've been awesome with us. We've known them for a long time. Doreen's known them, for a long time. So we were able to, they host us. Anything we've ever done, they've been showed us so much love, and they allowed us to pop up right there at their store on a Saturday. It was crazy. We sold out quick. The reception was awesome. a little crazy at first because everybody has a bad like misconception of Spam. You know, it's a mystery meat.
Yeah,
You know,
my daughter won't eat it.
yeah, like hot dog.
You know,
Yeah.
How do you know about that?
So
But you put that on the skillet. Oh,
yeah, oh
man,
man,
it was like when I was a kid.
yeah. So, and it's funny. So it you know, so we got that a lot. You know, got the weird like making Spam.
Yeah.
Then one time some lady was like, "Oh, you're making Spam," and told Doreen, "Good luck with that." And just like, yeah, just like it's crazy.
Yeah.
We've had crazy, but for the most part,
But you got to take all that with it, right?
You
Like,
have to.
I mean, in order to keep moving, because you're gonna have that no matter.
Oh, yeah.
what. Yeah.
and just haters are gonna hate. Period.
Haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate. I mean, you know, they say stuff just to say stuff. You know, they might not even mean it, but they just just to get a reaction out of you. You know, and but for the most part, we've always, you know, been showed love. You know, and I think for us, like the best you know, compliment is someone from Hawaii. Like, you just took me back home. You know, they get excited. You know, and that's a huge compliment. You know, the huge compliments are, you know, people that's never had Spam before, you know, and then they ask us, oh, they're kind of scared. We've never had Spam before. And so here, try it on the house. Boom. You know, if you like it, then cool. You know, we got a new convert, you know, but, so yeah, you know, it's been an interesting ride.
So 2011, we're in.
Yeah, 2014 we started.
2014. My bad.
And in 2016, we parted ways with our partner, and then me and Doreen just, you know, stayed, and we wanted to show more of the story, which is like the why of why we do it, and it has everything to do with her grandparents. So her grandpa Al, born and raised in Hawaii, Japanese from Okinawa, his family or parents. And then he was born and raised in Hawaii. Her grandma Mina, rest in peace, was born in, I don't know, I can't remember if it's San Diego or TJ, but they met in TJ. So straight, yeah. So when I met Doreen, and I, you know, would go to the family cookouts or whatever, so we'd have like Mexican food and Japanese food. Her grandpa passed away in 97 or 96, I think. So I never got to meet him. But I love Grandma Mina. You know, Grandma Mina was awesome. And so that was like her family. So then it was cool, you know, because...
When did she pass away?
She passed away, let me see, what are we in, 2023? She had to pass away like 2016, because my pops, rest in peace, he passed away in March, and Grandma Mina passed away in September.
So they both got to see...
Yeah, you know, and again, for a long time, it was a lot, you know, I'm glad my pops got to see me start something.
Well, yeah.
And come to my pop-ups, and, you know, and that means a lot, you know, and it was tough, you know, it was a tough when he passed away. So that was another reason why I had to go to start therapy was that grieving process. Cause even as a teenager losing friends, you don't know how to grieve, you know, like no one tells you the proper way to grieve. So it's anger, you know,
It turns into something else because
Yeah.
you're not allowing.
so with me, like the anxiety and the fear turns into anger. Why? Because, you know, it's that fight or flight, you know, that's gonna, like, your back is against the wall. It's, you know, it's ready to get busy. So I didn't know how to internalize. I didn't know how to like process that, like pain and sadness. It was just, I was angry all the time and grumpy, and you know, it's just, you know, I just didn't want to deal with anything. And I felt that if I didn't talk about it, that it was helping, but it doesn't, because it resonates and it resonates, and it like, you know, your vibes are like, everybody feels them.
Yeah, no, definitely. If you suppress that part of yourself, it'll, you know, I said I wasn't going to talk about my therapy session, but like, you know, I've been studying psychology for like quite some time, and I never really fully understood like Carl Jung's like shadow self about like repressing. And so we have this, I have this table, right, of all the different personality types that I've developed over the years, and like these certain personalities that have grown out of my trauma protectors for me to be able to get through stuff. And so I have a gangster like he's
Yeah.
the thug or whatever, like the guy that is willing to protect, right? And I always thought that I had to repress that part of myself, or I had to repress this other part of myself, right? Instead of allowing space for that, regulated, obviously, and not creating this this version that would, get violent. Like, so I would sublimate it and I would box. Like, those were the things I would box, like that part or whatever, like play basketball. And, but I didn't really understand the idea of when you're suppressing like a certain part of you, that it's going to represent itself no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether you acknowledge it or not. And it's actually worse to not acknowledge that part of you, right? Because it'll show up, and it'll show up with spite. That's, you hear it all the time when people say like, oh, why do I keep doing this thing?
Yeah.
Why do I keep doing it over and over and over? It's because they haven't been able to touch and connect with that part of them. Haven't like pushed it down. So that's like, but I had this moment where like I really understood what that meant, and that meant to be open to even that dark side of myself, and I don't know, like for me, I think a lot of people can learn from that, because then you're also realizing that like we all have that darkness in us, right? And when we see it activated in other people, we come from more of a place of understanding, right? And like, somewhat compassion, you know what I mean? But like, that is the version, that's me. Like I'm in that person as well, because it's easy to.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. And you understand like what they're going through, like you get it. Yeah, you get it, and that's heavy, bro. I mean, that's a heavy like breakthrough.
Yeah, I mean, I had cried, and it was, and I felt light. Like after, I mean, I was able to just, uncover some stuff. I want to know about like the moment that you and Doreen were like, I think we got something here, and I really want to like push it.
It's funny, bro. Like I wish it was like a crazy like, like a moment like that,
Yeah.
And I think we just go, we go and we worked, and we built, and we just went and went and went. And for me, I mean, I don't know, Doreen might say different because it's her family, but I feel we were on a HBO special a couple years back on Takeout with Lisa Ling, and Doreen was able to, with her aunt, talk about our business, but also about her family's history, because her grandpa Alton was a war hero, part of the 442, I guess most decorated, combat regiment, in all of military, World War II, Japanese, fighting for a country that, didn't want him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heavy. Like, it's funny because, sometimes I get into not arguments, but discussions with people that are like pro, like all this military, whatever. And I'm like, yo, like my wife's grandpa was he was in the military when his people were in internment camps. Like, think about that, and you want to just like, it's crazy. Or Grandpa Hank, who we live with, Wildcat, 92 years old. He's built different.
He's built different.
He's built different. He's LA. Like for me, he's LA because he grew up in Lincoln Heights, pretty much saw the LA River being built, like he's LA, 100%, was a kid, like he was like almost a teenager during the Zoot Suit riots. Like that's LA to me. So, and his story is going into the army right after World War II, going to Germany and being Mexican and Mexican American, and them not liking him, so it's crazy when you're a minority in the service, so that's like, so Doreen's grandpa was a war hero, met Doreen's grandma, and TJ was like, one day I'm going off to war. When I come back, we're going to get married. And that's what happened.
Yeah.
They wouldn't, so that's our story. That's the why, kind of representing, mixed cultured, people and, our kids and Doreen being mixed cultured and, having a hard time bringing her Musubis to school, and so, so, we put on for all the mixed, kids or having to grow up and people telling them that, what they're eating is gross or, you're weird and, your last name's weird and stuff. And, so that's another big compliment we have is when they come to our pop-up and they're like telling Doreen, like, wow, we thought we were the only Japanese Mexican, in our area and how they relate and the stuff, so that makes us happy and proud and to share our story and why, and my story. And we just like want to represent LA like authentically, and so
what does that mean to you? What does authentic mean to you? Like to be an authentic Angelino?
It's to take everything, right? The good parts,
everything,
the bad parts. Mm-hmm. You're not ashamed of anything, You're not ashamed of the roaches and the rats, But then you're proud of the resiliency and the strength that our people have, or being from LA have, and the triumphs and trials and the riots and it's everything. I'm proud to be from LA. My dad was proud to be from LA. My mom grew up in the harbor area. But my dad was proud to be from LA. We love LA for like I said, all parts of it. Not just the good parts and not just the glitz and the glamour and
which is not even
it's not even a thing.
True representation of like the people that live here. That's like I don't know where that.
Yeah, so I hate when people are like, oh my God, I hate LA. It's so fake, and I'm like,
especially like people that are not from here.
Yeah, like where you?
I mean, I do get that, like for the people that are like in the Hollywood area.
Yeah,
like all these people that are coming from other places.
That's why I'm like, where
try to make it.
Yeah, where are you going? Like where are you at?
Yeah. I mean, this is the worst. Because I've heard so many people that are not from here, even though they still live here, saying like, I hate it out here. It's like, well, why are you here?
Yeah.
Nobody's like forcing you to be here.
That's cool.
I mean, I've definitely had like my love and my hate for, I mean, there was a time when I was just like, I was kind of over it, but it was because I was allowing like people like that to like dictate. And I remember being in Echo Park when I worked at Destroy All magazine. Yeah. This was like before. I remember being in Echo Park when I like do other things too.
Yeah,
like, at this point in my life, I was working for a punk rock magazine, and I could see like a shift and a change, you know, obviously like happening. And there was like that. I think the Echo was around back then. I remember going to shows, but you know, a lot of people were coming from other places into the area, and they would get drunk and throw bottles around. Like that angered me when I guess people come into like an area and then just disregard what is like going on there,
and no respect.
You know what I mean? I think that's like where I think tradition like comes from, and like the again, like you touched on it before, and this really translates over into anything. And I don't know if this is a generational thing, but I think it might be, because I think about skateboarding, right?
Yeah.
Think about like there was a point up into a point when people like really respected this is like hip hop, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think hip hop is actually a better analogy to that. Is that like there was a respect for the history of it. Right, you never wanted to like bite someone's style.
Yeah.
Like just all that, like and then all of a sudden you have like this generation that didn't. I don't care. Like I don't care about any of this stuff that's going on. So I you know, me being like born and raised out here, it's like, especially with the way that I look, because I think I mentioned it earlier. Like people probably think I'm a hipster, and it's like they probably see me with my rolled up beanie and like tattoos, like walking around at Silver Lake, and they're like this guy. But like the identity with LA is something that I'm like, I remember like 80s, 90s, it being definitely defined, right? And somewhere along the way, it shifted, and where I had actually made this observation where I felt like people from New York were coming here and they were trying to push like this New York, and I can't even really explain exactly what that was, but I just felt like there was something else going on. But there's also seems to be like a resurgence with people like this is LA, right? Like I think it's like is it Born and Raised?
Yeah.
Like that clothing brand, like I feel like I've seen that like pop up. And I don't really know too much about it, but I know that I've seen like you wearing like their clothes.
Yeah.
So there's like, it seems that we're trying to like figure that out, or we're trying to like get back to it. Like what's your experience been?
Yeah, born and raised, rest in peace, Spanto. He's always been good to our family. Janai, my daughter, has worked with them in the past.
Okay.
And not too long ago, but it's again, it's like it's one of those things where where me personally, like, I like to look at the owner or whoever's like, because like, we were just talking about it, like it's so easy, like corporate money and stuff is so easy to be like, we're going to throw a few dollars, and let's, rent some lowriders. It's all marketing, and Spanto and that brand is, I felt like a true, like a representation of Los Angeles, because he was around, and he was, with the homies and Venice, born and raised. And so that was like something where it was, man, when I seen that, and it's crazy because when I met him was right when his brand first started. It was not too long after I was well, and I was getting tatted by my homie Eric Dressen, and
shout out to Eric Dressen.
Yeah, and that's, man, shout out Eric, miss you, bro. But that's another crazy story I have. But yeah, so and I met Spanto. He was getting tatted by Norm, rest in peace, at Will Rise, right there on Fairfax. And it's crazy, to know they're both gone. But I met him. He was getting tatted, and Eric was wearing a Born and Raised shirt, like the rocker, just the OG logo. He was like, "Oh, it's my homie Spanto. I've known him since he was little, and this is his brand." And it was cool. Chopped it up for a little bit. I got tatted. He got tatted, and that was that, and years went by, and then my daughter started working with them, and I remember I took her to a photo shoot, and he was there, and we chopped it up, and I met you a long time ago, and then he was like, "That's right." And after that, like, man, good dude, really good dude. So I felt like just that connection, with the people, with the homies, with the community, with that's big. And I respected that, and to me, that's LA, it's LA is just giving yourself and being authentic to where you come from, and speaking out about stuff like, injustices and gentrification and, and all of that, and not really caring what, the consensus says about what you're doing. And just being you, being real. I mean, being authentic. I think that's
authentic.
That's the, like, when you're from LA, you got to be authentic, because
I mean, it's really, and I'm sure this, right? Because your daughters has like worked with different companies, so you have like a company like that, then you have like a company like Nike, and then you have them wanting to, because I see it a lot. And I think it was actually one of the commercials it was like 7-Eleven or something, like coming in and sort of taking the image of like this thing that I remember, like from, because I feel like the 90s like style has came back, so I tripped out. Like, to me, that's trippy to see. Like I trip out, like, my connection to this thing that happened, because my experience going through that is one of the reasons that, like, I think I've suffered so much, because I lived this certain lifestyle that was connected to like the way that we dressed, the way that there was like we acted, and so like to see it like in like a commercial or something like it's a trippy thing. So I feel like it's also that has like become LA, and maybe that's like everywhere. Maybe that's everywhere now, where we're all just trying to like just figure out who we are, like what our identity is, because it doesn't feel like when I think about like LA, I think of it like 80s when I was like a little. I think of Fernando Vela, so I don't know why, and I think of smog, and I think of Chips because I used to watch the hell out of Chips. But
That's great.
I mean, like for me, you want to see like LA, like that was LA to me for some. Oh, and another thing that was LA to me, I forgot the guy's name. The sewer caps with the cats on it in the LA River.
Yeah.
That's like LA to me. But yeah, so I mean, it's just kind of a trip to see, I think, like corporations coming in, and then even like developers like coming in and just not really caring about anything, right? And then of course, like the people that are moving into these spaces, they have no idea. They don't know that they're going into like, I'm gonna go live in LA, and have no idea that they're actually like, I don't want to say imposing or infringing, you know what I mean? It's like a free world, and we figure shit out together. They have no idea. It's like these developers that are coming in and be like, I'm going to build, you know, a 5-story like apartment complex in this area where it's all working class people.
Yes.
And like this, it's going to change the dynamic of it. I mean, I saw all that happen. Echo Park, Highland Park. I lived out in all these spaces. And there is like this us against them, and then, but I feel like that's too easy. I feel like we're not recognizing like what, like who's actually like pulling the strings on that. You know what I mean? Like these. What's your take on that?
No, it's true. I mean, like, you know, somebody had to give the okay.
Yeah.
Someone had to allow that to happen. You know, and no, it's sad. I mean, you in a perfect world, you would wish like these developers will think about the community and be like, hey, you know what? Let's, you know, build these nice apartments, or let's build these condo, or whatever the case is, and just try to like, you know, let's beautify the community along with the community instead of thinking other people are gonna come and make it better. You know, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, that's also an attitude of the people that live in the community, because I know like people that are like, say, Hispanic, that live in Hispanic, and they're like, they see like these hipster like coffee shops pop, and they're like, oh yeah, bring it, like, because you know the drugs will go away, and then like the crime will go away. But that's also not the solution either. Like really, at the end of the day.
No, that happens. I think. Yeah, that's a whole, that's crazy.
I mean, you know, like, right, like El Serena's like struggled to get like a coffee shop that I feel like is like its own. I mean, there's like Holy Grounds, right? But I've seen like so many of like the people that lived like from the area like try to start stuff, and then it just
it's tough, you know. I mean, it's a business. Business is a business. Is you gotta either, you know. That's why for me, some of my struggles with, you know, being a business owner is thinking so like business like thinking about the bottom line all the time, you know, when, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, if you want your business to, you know, grow,
definitely gotta be there. Yeah.
It has to be there, you know, but it's like, you know, man, you know, this person's hurting, you know, let me shoot them some food, you know, and this person comes, I struggle with that part of the business side of it, you know, because it's like, and I got to charge these people, and
we're similar, because when I had my skate shop, there were so many times that like a kid couldn't afford. I was like, you only have $30 cash. I got you on this $50 debt.
Yeah, like, and you know, and I admire business people that could just do that. You know, it's to an extent.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, no, to an extent. Like, don't. Yeah, let me double back on that. I don't take your money from people now, but like, you know, so. With these developments, I think what sucks about it is they you know, like you said, they do that with the intent, you know, like, let's get these people, you know, and you know, they're nice, and you know, the neighborhood's gonna look different. People are gonna want to come and live there, But what happens? Nobody comes and lives there, and now we have a bunch of empty apartments that now they still don't want to, rent to the community. They still want, 4 or 5 G's, rent. It's crazy.
It is.
Especially right now, like you can't, like who's gonna go live there, and it's sad.
This is totally off topic, but on topic. Instagram, you could do like an ad or whatever. So I like to put up the ads for like the new episode. Instagram has now made it to where you don't go directly through them. You have to go through Apple Pay, and then Apple Pay charges you a service fee on top of what you would pay for. I'm like, now out of all, like, you're gonna, it just seems like we're doing that with everything to a point where it's just, service. We gonna be out service fees. Service fees on. So it's, to me, it's super important for people like yourself to be out there and to be committed. I mean, it was the same way when I had my shop. It's like I was committed to, and it sounds cheesy, but a bigger idea, and the idea of being community, like creating community. And I think that's what needs to be maintained. And I think the people that come into a space need to also understand that they can be a part of that. You don't need to completely try to change it or even, or disrespect it or but you have to understand like the tradition of something. You can't just
and I totally understand that. It's you have to be, the respect has to be there for everybody, and the tradition, like you said, like, you just can't go there, set up and be like, okay, I'm going to market to these people and not have anything for the community that you're like, that you're renting a storefront in or whatever it is. And I think, that's a problem, bro. That's but then again, who's allowing all this, like, whether it's developers, making like little, I don't know, shopping centers or, whatever the case is, like, who they're allowing it. The city has to allow, things to be built. The city has to allow,
Yeah. I mean, and they're definitely put money into, because I was thinking that it really should be up to a community if, like, a developer is coming in and they're like, I just want to build this high rise with like retail space like on the bottom, right? Because that's gonna bring a whole new type of person to this location, and the rent's gonna go up, and it's just like they're like the regulation of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then also too, I don't think sometimes the education of how things work and go on and encouraging the community to go to these meetings and these city council meetings, and that's a lot too, because sometimes the money sneaks in there and these developers sneak in there, and now they're they're being represented at all these committees, and I could do this for the community and I could build this and about that, and we'll kick you down, this is and that's what happens. That's what happens. They kind of just sneak in there, and then all of a sudden we got a big ass whatever. And it's sad. I wish they would work with wherever they're at, with the people around.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody could benefit from that. And it could also be this thing that we could allow like space for everyone without it being like, because I think we tend to like look at the wrong person to blame, because it's not that person that's like, I mean, I know a lot of people that hate on like the idea of gentrification, and like it's obviously like an issue, but I feel like pointing the finger at like the individuals that move into a space, right? It's not necessarily their fault, but there's also needs to be like accountability, I think, to recognize that you are going into this other space that has like tradition, it has like this culture, it has this and that. So I don't know, but I mean, that's to me, that's what has become LA to me in the current times, is this that sort of dichotomy between like what was and what people that are from LA are trying to hold on to, and then like this thing that we're trying to fight against. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So many layers. There's so many layers of things and reasons and I feel the identity is getting blurred now, like washed away little by little, just, because there's not too many people that'll stand up, or like you said, will kind of even sell out in a sense, because then they allow like corporations, or they allow people to come in and, exploit or put something in the forefront that has always been there, but now this corporation wants to, target a certain.
Were you telling me that they have county bins?
Yeah, Frisco bins.
Frisco bins and Zoomies.
Again, it's like, I think we run the risk of sounding like old men, all the time. And I'm always like laughing because
you got to get that at the indoor swap meet.
Yeah, I'm like, I used to get my stuff right there on Whittier. Like, come on.
But I'm using, but it's also like recognizing who's taking the money. Like, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's just, I mean, it's the same in skateboarding, right? Like, you have your people that are, they're purists,
yes,
right? In a sense, like tradition is good. Being a purist is good, right? Like, what's on the other side of that? Like, if you're not that, right? And where does that lead when you're not, a gatekeeper to something, or like someone that, wants to keep tradition, like keep it there, right? Like, what happens when you allow that door to open up a little bit?
Yeah.
Where does that lead, ultimately? And I think, it is, there are a lot of layers and it's very complicated, but it's not complicated. Although the flavors and did I say musubi? That's not the prop.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is
musubi.
Yeah,
Musubi.
Yeah.
There's only a few layers there.
Yeah.
And it's not this crazy complex thing, but it tastes absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a good representation of like where things can be, right?
Yeah,
like they can be very like simple and like straightforward and maintain some tradition and some value. But you know what? You could put a little bit of flaming hot Cheetos on it and you kind of turn it into something else, but God damn it, it's the same thing, just with a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, just a little bit of LA flavor on it.
With a little bit of LA flavor.
Yeah.
On that note, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Is there anything that you would like to say? Any final thoughts? Any shout outs?
Final thoughts, man. I just, thank you for having me, man. I haven't been I haven't been interviewed in a while. I mean, a worthwhile interview, I think.
Yeah. What is he talking about? He's getting like, he's on like Netflix. And, like, he's made the big time. He's going to try to play that down. But,
we talked about it. It's different, and, but thank you. Congratulations. I love seeing all the, schools that are accepting you.
Yeah.
And, that puts a fire under me to go back to school, because I've been wanting to go back to school for a long time, but it's just
maybe for business.
It's tough, yeah.
So you could be like,
so I could learn how to accept people's money, and that's why bro, it's tough for me. But bro, thank you. Shout out to you and your future, and
I appreciate that.
I love it. I love to see it, bro. I mean, I love it because it shows these kids that, we could do it. You could do it. You could do it, and whether it's just getting out the hood and working, a 9 to 5 or not, it's just you stay positive and just try to work through it. Wonder, he was just quiet like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, right when we started talking again.
But yeah,
shut up, dog. Before we have Adam puts you inside of a pot and we're going to eat like it's Vietnam War. Sorry, my dad, they had him eat some dog. That's not anything.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway,
on that note,
yes.
Give us a follow at East Los Musubi, at EASTLOSMUSUBI. Be on the lookout. We post our pop-ups and our catering gigs and whatever. And then, check out my side hustle.
Your side hustle. Got to have a side hustle. If you're doing a side hustle, you're not just...
My side hustle is Yaki Boys, YAKI_BOYZ. I do small bites, yakitori, stuff like that. And I throw an event called Domingo Boogie, which is, just a little backyard boogie, old school 90s style, family friendly. I throw it along with my homie JJ. Shout out to JJ and the Sinceres. He plays trombone and, kind of curates the music part of the day and, spin some tunes, sell some records, come and chill, It's this chill vibe on a Sunday, LA Sunday. That's the vibe we want to give. Is
chilling with the homie.
Exactly, 100. Come and chill. But on that note.
All right, for sure. Well, thank you for being here, being vulnerable, sharing. Sharing, I think it's really important for people that come from that type of environment to understand that they, however they need to get out of an environment or to grow from an environment. And that's one thing that I've learned from you is that you have a growing mindset, a growth mindset versus like a fixed mindset. And I think that's really important for people that come from a certain part of the community to keep pushing forward, no matter what's being thrown at you. I think that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, any of those platforms, make sure that you subscribe. All right. And check this out. I'm going to put this out there too, because there's like almost 900 followers on Instagram, yet I don't have 900 followers on YouTube, and I'm trying to get up there. So make sure you subscribe. Yeah. Or nothing's going to happen. I won't know who's not doing it, who's doing it. But other than that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Definitely, for sure. Until the next episode, I'm your host, Kasper. This has been Adam Martinez. We'll catch you on the flip side. For sure.
See y'all.
Peace. I think we're done on that one.
I hope so.
That was not recording.
What are you rebelling against?
What do you got?
We're trying to change something.
Skateboarding is a way of learning how to redefine the world around you.
The owners of this country don't care about the poor in your